Now, this is a story all about how my life got flipped turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how I became the prince of a place called Atlanta. In West Brooklyn, New York, I was born and raised at a video store where I spent most of my days chilling out, boxing, rewinding all cool, watching some wrestling at home after school. When one day, WWF ratings were no good, and McMahon said, come move to my neighborhood. I booked one great show, and Patterson got scared. He said, you're moving down south with Uncle Ted in Atlanta. I whistled for a cab, and when it came near, the license plate said Harris. I saw those twins in the mirror. If anything, I was told WCW fans won't care, but I thought, nah, forget it. You're home to Atlanta. I pulled up to the Omni around 7 or 8, and I yelled to the Harrises, you're home, I'll push you later. I looked at my kingdom, I was finally there to sit on my throne as the Prince of Atlanta. And after all that, bro, if you think you're smarter than Vince Russo, you can get fucked. But listen to the show anyway, it's not bad.
Backbone Wrestling Network, welcome back for episode 6. 6, Logan. We're now on 2 hands when you say the number of the episode. 2 hands right there. 6 of Are You Smarter Than Russo's WCW? I already said his name, but join me always on this adventure. The Pat to my Gerald. The Patrick to my Gerald. Logan Crossland. How are you doing, buddy?
Oh man, that was a put down and a compliment at the same time. But happy to be here as always to talk about the shitstorm that is Russo's WCW. So definitely looking forward to getting into it. And I would like to thank all the people that have listened to us. As I believe Mr. Kidd told us, we are one of the top pods of the Backbone Wrestling Network. So thank you to everyone who has listened to us so far and will continue to. So thank you to the fans out there. I love that you all love our miserableness.
I would say Descent into Madness, but I think that's trademarked by Highway to Impact Zone, Logan, and I'm not trying to get Jake's litigation team after me. Just thank you for everyone listening. This is a labor of love, obviously, for us to go back and watch this. But as we talked about in the first episode, like I'd sort of taken a break from wrestling. Logan wasn't watching WCW at that time. So it's interesting to watch and talk about, especially with some of the things that we have tonight, which, it seems like Russo just caters to 14-year-olds. So I know that was the big demographic back then, but there's one match tonight, Logan, that sent the douche vibes through the roof.
I don't even think a 14-year-old would have enjoyed that one. That was quite uncomfortable. We'll talk about it. But yeah, I mean, you talked about Highway to the Impact Zone. We just got Russo back in the creative chair, so I am dealing with him and his absolutely wild way of booking on 2 separate shows now. So,
wait,
love and life.
You mean to tell me Russo? You mean to tell me Russo did not do VKM?
Not the original, at least.
Oh my goodness!
They were
all right
before he came back. Yeah.
Wow, I really that has him all over it.
He may have given them more creative credence. Yeah, they may have given him more creative credence, but yeah, he did not come up with that idea. I don't think they were around before.
Wow. Okay, Logan. I wish we were on video right now because my eyes bugged out of my head when Logan said that. So I just flabbergasted right now, guys. So let's before we start talking more about 2009 TNA. Right? 2009? 2007 TNA. My apologies. Talking about 2007 TNA. Let's go back 8 years in time. And we're kicking it off. We're in November, Logan. 5 episodes we did in October. The 6th one, we're in November. November 1st, 1999, Monday Night Nitro from Minneapolis, Minnesota. We kick off Nitro with Hall and Nash in the locker room. Brett hobbles in on crutches and says that those 2 are the 2 biggest pieces of trash he's ever seen. I don't do a good Bret Hart. My apologies. Scott then deadpans. Are you talking to me, Brett? Brett says, screw you, Scott. Calls him a slime ball and a piece of scum. Then Nash says, whoa, 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 Mr. Canadian hero. Nash says, we handled you the U.S. strap. Hart says, I don't need your help and stay out of my business and leaves. Hall has a parting shot of Bret has his panties in a wad. And then Logan, as tonight is like production gaff mania for WCW. We can actually hear the ring announcer giving the countdown to the crowd as they welcome us in after this. And I was like, oh my goodness. And like I said, Tony welcomes into Minneapolis, Minnesota. Bret Hart comes out. He's on crutches. So this man's he's getting those steps in on those crutches because he was in the locker room and now he's hobbling to the front, to the ring. Tony informs us yet again that the final four will take place at Mayhem November 21st. It's 2 semifinals and 1 final that night. Bret gets on the mic and, hey, Logan, Bret's on the mic and he's talking about something that happened. He says he didn't build his reputation by screwing people. Oh, we got to sort of allude to the Montreal screw job. As he watched the replay of last week's match, it was clear to him that Goldberg got screwed. Bret says a lot of scum running around in the back. Nash, Hall, and Sid. I guess scum was his word of the day, Logan, because he used scum more in 3 minutes than I think I've used my whole life until doing this recap.
He definitely hit his word, like usual word quota for the night. He said scum and trash and slime ball. Those are all like keywords that are in like a lot of Bret Hart promos when he's really running down somebody, especially when he's a face talking about heels, because Jerry Slimeball Lawler was one of his favorites back in the day. So he hit his quota for sure.
Next time I see Canadian hero Mark Poirier, I'll have to ask him if that's like Canadian words that they use to make fun of people. Slime ball scum. And so Bret continues and says, as far as he's concerned, that Goldberg is still U.S. champ. He says the belt belongs to Bill Goldberg. Out comes Sid, and he's screaming, saying the belt doesn't belong to Bill, but belongs to him. Sid says that Halloween Havoc that the ref stopped the match at his discretion. Sid says, Bret, do you think that little boy's going to make me quit? Sid says he heard Goldberg say I quit, and later on he will show the world that Bill Goldberg quit. Spoiler alert, guys, this is dropped, unless it's brought up on Thunder. This is no longer brought up the rest of tonight. Sid says he wants his U.S. title back. Bret says, screw you, Sid. Sid says, screw me! Screw me! No, screw your crippled ass! And clotheslines Bret.
I love Sid.
Exactly how he does it. Like
I know.
You got to get that inflection there. So Sid beats down Bret with kicks. Out comes the Outsiders. Sid's about to powerbomb Bret, but stops. Outsiders gives the belt to Sid and tell him to leave the ring. And then the Outsiders are just nudging Bret with their feet, like, oh, you want to see a dead body, and like just poking you with their feet. And that's the end of that. And then we go to Tony and Bobby, and they talk about the tournament, and then they say we have a steel cage above the ring. Tony is wondering why the cage is set up. I don't know, Tony. Maybe a fucking cage match is coming. Like, what do we think? So, Logan, what do you think of that? Of all that shenanigans? And we apparently have a cage match coming up.
Yeah, we do have a cage match, apparently. We don't know what it is quite yet, but we will eventually have a cage match. You know, like I said, Bret Hart hits his word quota for his usual words that he uses a lot to describe people he doesn't like. He seemed very forced in that opening segment with the Outsiders. He really seemed like he was trying to overact a little bit in that one for sure. And then he comes out, kind of lays the title down, says it belongs to Goldberg. And then Sid comes out, makes up the story about him saying, I quit. And then he really couldn't be stopped, except when the ref ended it because of the blood. And he shouldn't have done that. But he does say he has proof that Goldberg said, I quit. But like you said, we don't see that the rest of the night. We may see it on Thunder or next week on Nitro or something, but still haven't seen that. He talked about it last week on Thunder too, but obviously we still haven't seen this proof that he has. But yeah, Bret tells him to screw off, and then Sid says, screw you, and then clobbers him. So really, really good segment there. And then, yeah, Tony and Bobby just kind of running down the brackets, and what's to look forward to tonight was all right. But yeah, that like I said, that first little segment kind of seemed super forced, but I did like the Bret and Sid interaction.
Yeah, and going on these brackets, Logan. We had talked about them on last episode of Thunder, but we get a couple more matches announced tonight. Tonight is Benoit versus Malenko, round 2. All right. And then we have Madusa. She lost last week, Logan, to Brian to Ming. She lost last week to Ming versus Evan Courageous, who saved her last week. Then we have Hall versus Vicious. And then we have the Cat versus Lash LaRue. And the Cat said on Thunder that he was hurt already, but coming back. So we're going to stop before we go in the next 4. It's we have 2 upper mid-carders with Benoit Malenko. Then we have Hall versus Vicious, 2 main eventers. And then we have these what the fuck matches with Madusa and Evan Courageous and Cat and Lash LaRue. Madusa's already lost 1. Why is she there? Is the roster that thin? They can throw out someone else. And then Cat and Lash LaRue. The Cat's hurt. He already said he was hurt. And it just frustrates me to no end that
just make it a smaller tournament if you're going to throw that shit out there. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. And when we see these 2 matches, Logan, they're not matches. I mean, combined, I think they're about 3.5 minutes total combined. So, and then we had the second half of the bracket, which is Buff versus Stevie Ray. All right. Vampiro versus Berlin. Didn't even know Vampiro was here yet, Logan. Disco versus Kurt Hennig. Kurt Hennig's doing that thing where if he gets pinned, he's gone. And Booker T versus Jeff Jarrett, which, spoiler alert, Logan, for when we get there to the summer of 2000, I think this is a main event on 7 or 8 shows, it feels like. They have a few that last the summer. So get ready for that. I always like their chemistry, Lo, and we talked about earlier before the podcast how they actually had a pretty decent match, which we'll get to. So what you think of the second half of the bracket?
Definitely much better than that top half, but still, like you said, Berlin being in it is crazy considering he just lost to
Brad Armstrong.
Brad Armstrong at damn Halloween Havoc. Medusa, we already talked about Medusa, but Vampiro didn't know he was around. Hennig basically being in a tournament where he has to win it or he's out. So he's basically going to get fired or he's going to become world champion. And I think we both know he's not going to become world champion. So he will be fired somewhere within this tournament, depending on when or where he loses. So, but yeah, still not the strongest people, but the bottom half of that definitely looks better than the top. So I'll say that for sure.
Yeah, definitely more appealing on paper, to say the least. If those matches deliver, we'll see. But so after this, we go backstage to the Revolution, which is a Shane Douglas, Asia, and Dean Malenko. They're waiting on Saturn, who shows up on a motorcycle, and we see Tori is on the back. And I was like, couldn't she just run away when he stopped? Because I'm pretty sure he probably hit a red light, Yeah, and the bike stops, and Tori's trying. Yeah, thank you. The bike stops and Tori tries to run. Asia grabs her. Perry and Dean are mad at... Shane and Dean are mad at Perry, and Perry just says, I like joyriding. So he's zany, guys. So then we have a commercial break. We come back from commercial. We have the Toy Biz Nitro Arena. They show a bunch of Toy Biz wrestling figures. I actually enjoyed the Toy Biz action figures. Of course, Logan had that Wolfpack Sting. Of course. But they had this Nitro Arena that talks. I didn't have that. I had an In Your House WWF Arena that lasted me, I think, to this day. Still at my dad's house. Wow. So, yeah, I know. We could probably do a whole action figure thing, podcast if we wanted.
Yeah, I definitely had the little entranceway thing that the WWF made, where you the little action figures had the little metal thing on the bottom of their shoe, and you would press it up against the entrance ramp, and it would play a part of their music. So I definitely had something like that. But and
that's awesome.
I always had a ring, so that was always a fun time.
Do you still collect wrestling figures?
I don't. My parents still have mine at my house somewhere, but a lot of them got chewed up by my dog growing up, so they're not worth very much.
Sentimental value.
Exactly.
All right, so something that I did not anticipate being talked about is brought up this week, Logan. Tony takes us back a week ago and asking, what did Randy Savage mean about a protege? And it shows Savage I have Unhinged promo from last week where he talks about how he's going to have a protege and he's going to break the ratings record, brother. I was like a Hulk Hogan. I'm starting to lose my voice.
No, you're good.
So it's interesting to see if that's going to continue because I thought Savage was done. So seeing this seems there might be something in the cards. So, and then we go to our first match of the evening, Logan. Vampiro versus Berlin. I did not realize that they said that Berlin is from Berlin, Germany, when he comes out, which I don't know, it just made me laugh because this is the most Berlin matches I've seen in my life doing this podcast because it feels like he's been on all 6 episodes somehow.
Yeah, it does feel like that for sure.
So, and then Bobby mentions that his pick to win the title tourney is Henning. As Henning gets pinned, he's fired. So that's why he's Bobby's pick. Shows how stupid people from Minnesota are when they're chanting USA during this match. Vampiro's from Canada. So good job, dumbasses.
And he wrestled most of his career in Mexico. So whatever.
Morons. They like the Vikings. What the hell do you expect? So yeah, for real. Moss this, Moss that. So Berlin starts the match. Berlin goes to a collar and elbow tie up and has a headlock. Vampiro fights out. They have a stalemate. Vampiro gets a headlock takeover. Berlin then gets a head scissors. Berlin hits a back suplex on Vampiro. Vampiro misses the kick, like he completely whiffs on it, and then he gets another kick in. Vampiro walks into a power slam after that, like a sort of Randy Orton-esque, his little snap suplex that he does. And out comes the Misfits, or rock group. And like during this time, Berlin hits a spin kick. Misfits are in makeup, which is like they're like painted up and like they have like kind of gothic looking.
Kind of insane clown posse-ish.
Yeah, but not as much white, just like more black and
like a darker kind of thing. Yeah.
They kind of look like vampires, if I'm completely honest. If like that's what I thought vampires dressed up as. So Bobby actually says that for Halloween they went dressed as humans, as Halloween was the night before, which I thought was a pretty good line.
That was pretty good.
So it was. He was actually doing pretty well tonight. I guess that liquor was hitting. Vampiro fights Berlin and hits a kick to Berlin. Then he chops him. Berlin back in control. And he hits a clothesline. Ref bump, Logan. Ref bump. Imagine that. After Berlin ran into the ref. The bodyguard goes to attack Vampiro and goes to run the ropes, but the Misfits pull the ropes down. The Misfits hit the bodyguard with the disgusting unprotected chair shot. Vampiro goes up top, and it was pretty sick. Vampiro then goes up top, and Berlin hits him with a drop kick, which I thought was pretty nice. And then Berlin hits a high knee, and then Berlin goes to slam Vampiro, and one of the Misfits swipes at Berlin's leg, and he goes down. Vampiro gets the pin with Berlin, with the Misfits holding Berlin's leg, so Vampiro wins. Berlin gets on the mic and says, "Shut up!" Berlin says, "No more screw Berlin, but screw USA." He probably should say screw the Misfits right there. So we go to the back. So before we go to the back, Logan, what do you think of that match? And do you know who the fuck the Misfits were? Because I didn't.
Yeah, I had no idea. I just assumed that they were some kind of cretins that followed Vampiro around from some other kind of promotion or something like that. They're a music group, you said? I think you
yeah, Bobby says Tony or Bobby says they're a rock group.
Okay.
I'll ask Matt Souza. He'll know.
Yeah, Matt will know. We'll see. But yeah, definitely didn't know who the hell they were. I just assumed they were some ghouls that kind of hung around Vampiro for some point in time. Berlin actually uncharacteristically kind of dominates this match. He usually gets his ass kicked and either pulls it out or loses to fucking Brad Armstrong. But yeah, he dominated this one for the most part. Like you mentioned, the sick chair shot to the wall, or the bodyguard, whatever you want to call him, at this point. But he does. Vampiro does get the Misfits to kind of neutralize him on the outside, so it can kind of be a one-on-one match. And yeah, like I said, despite kind of dominating most of the match, obviously Berlin loses once again. So another loss for a new character that you're trying to get over as a heel, which obviously isn't working out too well. So, yeah, he comes out and says, "Screw the USA" after the match. So obviously getting a shot in there at the old heartland of America in Minnesota. So, but not a terrible match, but not anything to write home about either.
Yeah, with these matches, it's like if it goes longer than like 2.5 minutes, I'm legitimately shocked by now, Logan. Unless it's a Thunder. So I'm and you know some fuckery is going to happen. So
Oh yeah. 100%.
So once they came down, I was like, of course. All right. So we go to the back, and Nash says they aren't letting him manage Scott tonight. Nash says he can be his promoter, give him a downside. And Hall asks if he starts smoking again, which made me laugh. Nash alludes to being like Vince McMahon. Hall says Nash is baked and gives Nash Visine. Nash then says, convenient you have less, which made me laugh. And also, they've been drinking beer all night because we saw them with like beer in their cups. And because they have a beer tap in their dressing room. I don't know if you noticed that, Logan.
Yeah,
they have a beer tap in their dressing room.
But they have two, I think. I think there were two handles that I've noticed. So that was hilarious.
Yeah, so just amazing. And then we cut to Douglas having Tori locked in basically a shark cage, like she was Jim Cornette in the 80s with the Midnight Express. And he says, you want to be a filthy animal, it would treat you like one, and then says the cage is a little kinky. So Shane likes to be locked in cages? All right. That was really good.
That's the only thing I can do. Shane Douglas is the laugh.
That was very good, Logan. So Tori's yelling for help. Not tonight. Not tonight. Yes, that was amazing. Thank you for that. Listen to YouTube Roulette for that episode 38, or as I called it, 46. So listen to YouTube Roulette for that as I completely break, guys. So during this, Tori's yelling for help, and the Revolution are screaming, "Oh, Billy!" mocking her, which I thought was pretty good. We have a commercial break. We come back, and it takes us to a week ago where Tori was kidnapped by the Revolution. And then we see like the Filthy Animals and Revolution from last week where they were battling. And then we bring up Chris Benoit Malenko's last man standing match. And then they show on Thunder how Benoit had sit in the crossface and Revolution jumped Benoit. And then out comes Revolution. Saturn has the biggest fanny pack ever. So big, Logan, that I took a picture and sent it to you. I noticed that Asia and Tori are missing for this. Shane says, cut the music. And then he says, you want a revolution where you're gonna change the world. Hey, filthy animals, when you get the knives out of your tires. Shane says the revolution will make you an offer you can't refuse. Perry says he's not done with your ass yet. Perry says the key will be put on a pole match. If Eddie gets the key, she's free. If Perry gets her, he scales her. I don't know what that means either, guys. Dean gets on the mic and says, Chris Benoit, I got your friendship right here, and looks at his dick. Dean says Chris is too soft and been nothing but a puss. I was shocked that I heard the word puss in 1999, Logan. Dean says tonight it's your ass that's going to get crippled. Out comes Benoit. Dean says, come on, Chris. Say it's not Mr. Malenko and the Associates. Chris says, not the Revolution. Now the Revolution has a cage fetish. Chris says tonight's match is Chris versus Dean in a cage. Chris says he will feel the wrath of silent, what silent but violent is all about. So, Logan, a lot happened right there. It seems like we're really intermingling the Benoit in with the Filthy Animals versus the Revolution, which is weird because it's not like the Filthy Animals are like they're down a member, but they still like match up with the Filthy Animals pretty well. So it's weird that Chris is in there. So what do you think of all that happened? Because that is a lot of what just happened, guys.
Yeah, definitely a lot of what just happened, a lot of Revolution stuff. But I'll go back to the Nash thing where he figures out the loophole that he can't be his manager, but tonight he's going to be his promoter. And that continues throughout the night to show what range that Nash has to kind of play another character for the rest of the night after this. But yeah, he finds the loophole. He says he can't be his manager because he doesn't have the proper paperwork. So but he does find the loophole that he says he can be his promoter. So we'll see what the hilarity comes with that. Yeah, Shane basically shitting on Tori while she's in the cage. was pretty bad. But yeah, they replay pretty much everything that happened over the last couple of weeks between them and the Benoit and Malenko stuff. And then they say the change the world line again. I don't understand that. That's so stupid. That for like a somewhat heel group to talk about changing the world is so strange to me for some reason. But yeah, Perry offers the key on a pole match. So if you didn't know Russo was here before, we have a pole match. So Russo is definitely here now. But he doesn't really, Perry doesn't gain anything for winning the match. So it's pretty much given Guerrero, like, if he wins, they get Tori back. So, and that's all they really want. He says he will scale her. I don't know if he means like take her skin off, or like if he just means like,
is Tori a reptile that we didn't know about? She Godzilla?
I was gonna say, is she a fish or something? I guess he means like grind on her or something like that. I don't know. I've never heard that called scaling somebody, but who knows? It is Perry we're talking about after all, so he doesn't have.
It made me feel dirty.
It did feel nasty for sure. I definitely feel the way that you feel on that one. But yeah, Malenko says he'll do the crippling tonight with Benoit. He mentions the cage fetish thing, and he says, well, that works out for you because there's a cage above the ring, and me and you are going to face each other inside of it later on. And then he says the silent but violent line, and I couldn't help but think of the story you told last time, that's what you call your farts. So I just immediately laughed when he said silent but violent, so I won't lie to you. But just a ton of stuff going on, but we'll see how that Filthy Animals Revolution stuff kind of works out the rest of the night.
Yeah, I'm sorry for ruining that catchphrase, but he's a piece of shit, so I think it works out.
It's always good to have a good giggle every now and then.
You have to. Like, that's how I get through life, Logan, as you're well aware. So we go backstage, and we see Nash is being worked on by a makeup artist, and he laughs like Vince, going, ha, 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 and says, that's a winner, Pally. I can't do voices, guys, okay? I can do the Sid one because he yells, but I'm sorry. You just have to bear with me. So we have a commercial break, and then we have the Mayhem match of the week, and it shows Norman Smiley versus Bam Bam in that horrible hardcore match of the first round tournament last week. Kyle Hudgens from Tuscaloosa won. Kyle, if you're still watching wrestling and somehow listening to this podcast, please reach out to Backbone Wrestling Network. Thank you. I have so many questions.
That's funny.
Namely, did you go to the Nitro that they talked about? That's all I want to know. Okay. Do you still watch wrestling? Did this kill your love for wrestling? All right. So we see the Filthy Animals coming into the arena, talking about their tires being slashed. Some guy backstage asked for the passes for the Filthy Animals, and they then beat him up, so they got their passes right here. Tony then goes back to a week ago where at Halloween Havoc, where DDP beat David Flair's ass. Then at Nitro, where David Flair beat Paige down with the crowbar. And DDP taken off on the stretcher. As we talked about, he's being written off to being ready to Rumble or Slam. We don't know the name of it, Logan, as we'll see later tonight. That's a horrible name.
I'm so glad they didn't go with that. It's so bad.
Like, we'll get to that in a little bit, but when they showed that, I was like, are you shitting me? Anyway.
Isn't that the name of that basketball magazine? Isn't there a basketball magazine called Slam?
Yeah.
Or used to be.
There is.
I don't know if it's still around.
Yeah, it used to be when magazines were a thing. That is correct. Mm-hmm. I wonder if they went after him and was like, you can't call your movie that. Anyway.
Maybe.
Anyway, what we're about to see here, Logan, is the start of, I don't even know what to call it, an angle that should never have taken place. I've seen better acting in porn, from what I'm about to describe, that carries through the rest of the night and probably a couple of Nitros. So we see Kimberly Page with Tenay and the Nitro Girls. Kimberly says that DDP suffered a chipped collarbone, cracked sternum, and broken ribs, that's what they said on Thunder. That's what he suffered as well. And that he was out indefinitely. So, they can't even keep their shit straight where she's acting like she's breaking the news. At least they kept the injuries correct. Kim says that his return is TBD. Yeah, because, I remember the chipped collarbone. I was like, that sounds familiar. And I dug through my notes and saw that's what they said. So Kimberly brings up the Nitro Girls and says she's leaving the group, says she has more important business to take care of, and walks off. We then see the brackets. We have Ernest the Cat Miller versus Lash LaRue in the Mayhem match of the week. Ernest comes out with his new hose. He has like new ladies of the night, assuming. Bobby says Lash LaRue is going to be a big star. That's a swing and a miss. Match starts off with Cat bitch slapping Lash, then follows with a right hand. Lash tries for a sunset flip, but Cat tells him to suck it and punches him. Catlin dances and tries to pin Lash. It's all Cat right now. And then in the corner, Lash tried an Irish whip, and Cat just falls over because of the injury mentioned on Thunder, which I remember the injury mentioned on Thunder. The announcers don't say shit when this happens. Lash puts him in like a leg lock, and Cat submits, then it's over. So I'll pause right here, Logan. What do you think of the Nitro Girls angle that we're about to see? Or you would talk about it more later? Just talk about Kimberly leaving the Nitro Girls. You heartbroken? What?
No, I'm not heartbroken because I really don't pay attention too much when they're on screen much anymore. They were kind of a bigger deal. I mean, I think they're probably still pretty presented as big a deal as they ever were, but and obviously they'll get an angle throughout the night, like you said. So, but yeah, Kim leaving, obviously her deal is more with DDP at this point. So I'm not shocking to see her go there, but obviously she's going to go tend to her hubby and make sure he's feeling all right, recovering from his injuries. But yeah, not sad to see her go. She is in like a zombified state. She's very like dead.
She really is. Thank you for bringing that up.
In the eyes when she walks away. So we'll see that kind of play out as well. Kind of what she's thinking, I think. And then, yeah, the Cat Lash match, the dancing elbow that he hits at one point was probably the highlight. But his knee just randomly gives way and taps very quickly to Lash's submission that he locks in. So definitely a strange match. Definitely kind of out of nowhere, the injury cell. I don't even think he gets hit with anything. I think he just kind of collapses. So very, very.
Yeah, it's just off the Irish whip. It's so weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely weird to throw that match out there and go with that finish. But controversy, kid, creates cash, like Bischoff always said.
Oh, it's something. It's something. So we go backstage and we see Brett on crutches. Brett calls Sid a big stupid dummy. He loves shitting on Sid. Brett says Nash, Hall, and Sid are scum. There's that word of the day again, and will stoop to any level. Brett says that they are under the barrel. Brett keeps calling Sid a big stupid dummy. He says it again. And says Hall, Nash, and Sid, someone will pay by the end of the night. Says he doesn't get mad, he gets even. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, you big stupid dummy. I know it's horrible.
I think Brett gets caught on. I think Brett gets caught on saying something and he can't get it out of his head, so he has to repeat it as many times as possible. So that's the scum thing. That's the big stupid idiot thing that he's got going on tonight.
You big stupid idiot, you dummy, you scum. So we go backstage to my favorite angle of the night, Logan. Is it Kevin Nash as the promoter? Wrong. It's the Nitro Girls horrible acting like they're in Skinamax. Backstage again to the Nitro Girls and saying they can do this and stick together. Spice says follow her lead, and then AC Jazz gets mad and says, Logan, in probably the thickest country accent, I'm not following her lead, and walks off. And it's like the thickest country accent. Was not expecting that out of that blonde haired girl. Mm-hmm. I was shocked. Like, yeah.
Very thick for sure.
So keep in mind, we have this segment, and then we go to commercial break, and then we have another segment, which is just an all-time fail from WCW. So we got Kid Cam is recording Liz about to change, so the filthy animals are pervs. But then when we see the Kid Cam, Liz is fully clothed and talking to Lex. And Liz saying, have you seen the tournament? You may have to wrestle some big guys. Lex says, Liz, you have to come up with a plan. Then they have a production issue where you hear that's it. And you see Liz laughing at the end and them saying, all right, we are out. And then it just goes back to the clap. Yeah, they do like a clap, like, and then they cut to the arena and it's silent for like 30 seconds. And then like Tony starts talking. So I was like, how the fuck does this happen? It's just like so shitty. Like they're a production company. Like, how does this happen? You know, it's not like me or you were doing that, Logan. We'd probably do better than that. Like, damn.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense at all.
It's real bad. And, you know, Elizabeth's great looking, but Billy Kidman also has Tori. Why is he trying to perv on Liz? I don't know either, guys. So we then go back to the announcers, and Tony and Bobby talk about within the last 10 days, Scott Steiner had back surgery. We haven't seen Scott since the show started, Logan. He's been missed. We've seen his brother a lot, but he's been missed. So Larry went to talk to him. Bobby says Scott is so tough. I'm shocked he didn't operate on himself. Tony hints that Scott may not come back. Bobby says, can you imagine if Rick and Scott were a team? Logan, for shit's fucking sakes, that's what they were for years. They were a tag team. Why are they acting like they were never a fucking tag team anymore? They're like my favorite tag team of all time. They've held numerous world titles, not just in WCW, but in WWF. I'm not sure about Japan. I know they wrestled over there, but it's like, are they not paying attention to anything? And Bobby was there when they were tag team champions. He was both the announcer. Promotions. In both promotions, literally 3 years ago, it sold out. They were champions in the Super Brawl where Scott turned on Rick. Like, the fuck are we doing?
Mm-hmm. Hey, he's probably 5 sheets to the wind at this point. He didn't know any better.
Probably, but it's just so bad.
It's very bad for you. So correct.
So sadly, we just get a career retrospective on Scott, but it's just as Big Papa Pump, which is like, if he was really retiring, you would see highlights of his whole career. But I do love Big Papa Pump is your hookup. Holler if you hear me. And then so we see the interview with Larry Z and Scott. I can't escape Larry Z. Larry asks Scott what caused the issue. Scott says he hurt his back last year, but in the spring he had shoulder surgery and it made him lean to the left. So that made him hurt the bulging disc in his back. He's been in severe pain. Larry asked what the last straw was. Scott said he tried not to have surgery. He said the pain kept coming back. Larry asked Scott what the doctor told him. The doctor said they were going to have a discectomy. I don't know what the hell that is. I guess something with the discs. Larry asked how everyday life is. Scott says he can't do anything for 21 days and he has to take it easy. And then the 10 weeks after that, he goes back to the doctor. Larry asks what's in the future. Scott says he hopes he return and will go by a doctor's diagnosis. So this is a very change of pace in Vince Russo's WCW to have a sit-down interview like this with Scott Steiner. So I didn't even know he was injured. I didn't know he's dead. I didn't know he was sick. Logan, this is like the most human we've ever seen Scott Steiner. Do you agree?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He is very, usually he's so out of his mind and just crazy and all that good stuff and says the stupidest and craziest things. But he is like very sullen, very serious, very seems kind of depressed that he's in the situation that he's in. Obviously hurting pretty bad. Talks about how bad his back is fucked up. But yeah, very, very different from any other promo I've probably ever seen Scott Steiner cut. Even when he's with the Steiner brothers, I feel like maybe he's not quite as Big Papa Pumpish back then, but especially once he becomes Big Papa Pump, he gets to a point where he just says the craziest stuff all the time. And he doesn't have like the full beard here. He just has like the goatee and like the colored in little spots on his chin. But I've never seen him without like the full goatee and all that good stuff. But yeah, definitely a very weird change of pace for him to be in this kind of vulnerable role as somebody who's just injured. So definitely a weird and different way of seeing him and kind of looking at him. But I thought it was well done for the most part, other than the fact that Larry Zbyszko asked the same question for all 4 questions, but changed the verbiage a little bit every time. But I thought Steiner's performance in it was pretty good. Whether it was really,
and also he's not like that's very true. It's also he's not like freakishly tan. Like you can tell he hadn't been tanning, and like he wasn't as big as he was. Like he was still pretty big, but like I don't know, just
he seemed
I
very
wrestling's fake, but it felt real, right?
Yeah. It definitely had a realism to it for sure that a lot of this stuff hasn't had. But yeah, he looked very different. Like he almost looked Steiner Brothers Scott-ish. Like he didn't quite even look as Big Papa Pumpish as he usually does. So, he obviously has the blonde hair, but like facially, it seemed like he kind of wasn't. Maybe he hadn't been eating like he usually does, or something like that, and was just a little off the gas, I guess, a little bit during his recovery. So definitely seemed to look different and act different for sure.
Yeah, total change of pace, especially with like in the middle of the show where like so many things are happening. This was like a 5-minute sit down interview.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
I'm pretty sure he got longer than Goldberg did, or it's very close. So after that, we see the Nitro girls dancing, and in the middle of the dance, like when like they were doing like some thing where they were shaking their head back and forth, AC Jazz just hits Spice. Spice then goes after AC Jazz, and the Nitro girls break up the fight. And then we go backstage to Tenay with that piece of shit Buff. Tenay says the powers may be have a surprise for Buff. Buff says he's tired of surprises and said he's thought his ship came in, but the powers that be gave him the bottom floor of the Titanic. But unlike DiCaprio, they aren't going to let me sink to the bottom. He said, line them up and stuff. Daddy Buff is going to knock them down. He sucks so much. Then says Buff 2, Riders 0, and says Buff Daddy and walks away. These are back to back. Like, if I was watching this, I'd be switching over to Raw, seeing the Nitro Girls dance, and then Buff just sucking. It's just horrible.
He does suck so bad.
And like he tries to like rattle off so many catchphrases, and none of them hit. I mean, somehow they might hit. I don't know, the Buff Daddy thing maybe, but so we go to commercial break. We come back. We see Nash talking like Vince, and he says, "Burn the bridge? Hell, I'm gonna blow it up!" And then we see the replay of the Nitro Girls fight from 1-800-COLLECT, which literally just happened. And then we see AC Jazz and Spice. AC Jazz shoves her, and the worst cat fight breaks out. Like, it's so bad, Logan. Like, you can tell that, like, it's like, Jesus. Like, just be like, hey, she called you a bitch. Go whoop her ass and have a fight there. So, we have another match tonight. It's Buff for Stevie Ray in the first round. Some kid has a Buff as the True People's Champ poster. Buff didn't make that for him and hand it out, right? So we see last week that they give him the name Creative Control, beat down Buff. Tony calls him Creative Control. So Buff's already in the ring, and Stevie comes down and says, "Don't celebrate too early." Stevie Ray says, "Powers that be said, you aren't the chosen one, and this isn't personal." But Stevie Ray said tonight, the first round match is a strap match. Another fucking gimmick match, Logan, in the first round. Buff said, "Who said that?" The two riders in the back. Stevie Ray says, "Look, man, I got to do what I got to do." So now we got Stevie Ray versus Buff in a strap match. And I don't know, Logan, I know you hate strap matches. I don't know if it's just a regular strap match or a touch-off corner strap match. Spoiler alert, it doesn't fucking matter. Because let me tell you what happens, guys. So Stevie Ray jumps Buff and starts beating him with the strap. Tony and Bobby start talking about Kevin Nash is dressed up like someone they used to work with. Hint, hint. Stevie Ray is beating down Buff. And then Buff throws Stevie over the top rope and he's trying to hang Stevie Ray. Not the best image to be seen. Creative Control comes out and attacks Buff. Then in a strap match, we get a fucking DQ, guys. In a strap match. And I have in my notes, strap matches in a DQ. Booker T comes out and gets Stevie Ray. Not going to lie, guys, when I watched this is what broke me. Logan, I took 3 times to watch this. This is the first break. What did you think of this bullshit, Logan?
I honestly had no idea what the finish was. Buff is like hanging him over the ropes at the end, so I didn't know if they like counted it as like a choke out or not. Because I think they were ringing the bell before Creative Control even got in the ring. So I don't really know what the finish was, whether it was supposed to be a submission or, a DQ or whatever. But either way, dumb. Didn't make sense. Didn't come off that way on TV at all. The funny thing about it is they're announcing him as the winner at the end of the match, and they cut backstage before Pinzer could finish the announcement. So that was another production gaffe for them.
Fucking killing it tonight.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, again, like you talked about, you mentioned the Nitro girls getting into another fight, so that continues. Won't be the last we see of them, of course. And then Buff's promo was just very buffish and very annoying as always. So, yeah, not another not good match. It never really had a chance to be a good match considering the two guys in it, but they didn't help themselves by booking it to be very stupid and confusing. So, yeah.
I hate them. I hate Buff. All right, so we go backstage to Tenay and Jeff Jarrett. Tenay asked if Jarrett hit Liz with the guitar. Jeff denies it and says he has the stroke, and he says Luger better apologize. Then we cut to Nash, comes out dressed as Vince McMahon. It doesn't even look close to Vince McMahon. It looks like
he looks like
Kevin Nash has. Yeah, it looks like he has like mesothelioma in his dying.
Oh my god!
So
he looks like Frankenstein with a toupee on, pretty much. Is what he's like, white Frankenstein.
Well, that's exactly what happens because the toupee falls off when I. So they're calling Kevin Nash the promoter. The crowd, which has loved Kevin Nash and Scott Hall the past couple weeks, completely silent for this. So Nash is doing his Vince impersonation and says, "Thank you, Minnie, for your hospitality." He says he's a promoter and the most powerful man in sports entertainment. He says everything he does for the fans. Says he's a knowledgeable man and single-handedly built sports entertainment. Chance of Asshole breaks out. He says, "You people are bad." Ha ha. Nash says, "Unlike billionaire Ted, I didn't buy my way to the top. I borrowed money and stepped on everyone on my way to the top." He said, "Due to stock options, I am a billionaire." Ha ha ha. Says, "I put everyone out of business that he owns the show." And he's reading off a cue card, you can see, because he tells him to move the cue card. And he says he has a guarantee. He stands behind his cash cow. He says he will work the main event against Jeff Jarrett. He says he's clean, he's sober, and he has more than one catchphrase. And he says, "Give it up for Trouser Snake Scott Hall." As Scott Hall comes out, Nash's wig comes off in the middle of this, and they have to put it back on. And you can see his ponytail in the back. Hall says, "Hey, yo." Hall says he can't follow his act. Hall says Party Police says one more strike and he's out of here. Hall says he's not burning a bridge up north. He asked the promoter who picked out his clothes. Hall says, "To all the boys in New York, we got your attitude right here," and does the suck it. Commercial break. All right, Logan. This is like so inside baseball. Like if I was watching this at 10 years old, I would have no idea who the fuck he's talking about. And it feels like they are just going to a small demographic, which is the internet fans, which think of the internet in 1999. I'm pretty sure I had dial-up. I didn't have DSL yet. So that's a small portion of the audience. And you have one of your biggest stars like making fun of Vince McMahon, the owner, and they're doing all these pot shots and Hall saying he doesn't want to have to go up north again and all this stuff. All this insider lingo. It's just so meandering and pedantic. What do you think?
Yeah, just definitely obnoxious. Just what they're trying to go for. Nobody that isn't in the know or isn't old enough to understand like what's going on and stuff like that. Those internet fans that you're talking about, the however few population of them that existed at this point, would get that this is supposed to be a Vince McMahon impression, and that's what they're going for and all that stuff. He, like I said, he looks like Frankenstein with a toupee on. So he does do the voice. Definitely supposed to be Vince at some point. I do enjoy that he introduces him as the Trouser Snake Scott Hall. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, they're trying way too hard to do something controversial. They even do the DX suck it at the end of the promo. So definitely trying to leech off some of the goodness that WWE or WWF had going on earlier in the year. Obviously, DX is no more they're not around anymore at this point. I don't think, or at least Triple H isn't the leader. I don't think they had reformed as heels yet. I think that happens the next year, but going back to the Tenay and Jarrett interview, Tenay in classic TNA form completely just doesn't even ask Jarrett questions, but accuses him of stuff that he does wrong. That is their relationship. That is how every interview that they will ever do in their history happens. Tenay immediately accuses Jeff Jarrett of something every time they get interviewed. This time, obviously, accuses him of hitting Liz with the guitar. And Jarrett says, Tenay better watch out or he'll be flipping burgers soon. So I thought that was a pretty good line. But obviously, he's looking for an apology from Luger. And if he doesn't, he'll make him pay. So, because he's got the stroke, because he's the chosen one. So, but yeah, that interview was pretty good. But the Nash segment was a little try hard.
Yeah, it was something, and that's like just so bad. So, and it continues on to the show because we have a couple more segments. I mean, some of them are pretty funny, but that was a swing and a miss from Nash, which is kind of shocking.
Doesn't have too many.
So we come back. That's 100% correct. So Paparazzi Productions, one of my favorite things he's ever done. As talked about on Highlight Impact Zone here on the Backbone Wrestling Network. So we see Luger and Liz walk up on Ming. Luger tells Ming that Jeff Jarrett is talking shit about him. Luger's like, it really upsets me. And then Luger says that Jarrett's even passing out bananas. Ming takes the banana and doesn't like unfurl it and just eats it. Luger walks away laughing. So like this is like Luger's been like surprisingly hilarious, even going back to before Halloween Havoc, where he's like, I'm not scared of Goldberg, and was looking around and shit. So it's just been funny to me.
Him playing the role of shit stirrer is pretty funny.
Yeah, it's great. Like, you see he's just having a good time with it. We see Tenay with Henning, and we got Henning versus Disco, and Tenay asks if tonight's his last bout. Henning says, you got to be kidding me. Says he's going to save his career, and he will win the WCW title as if. We see the bracket again, and we see that it's Disco versus Kurt Hennig. Disco comes out with the Cruiserweight title. Kurt Hennig is up next. They show where Hennig used the chair on Lash when he was about to lose last week. Hennig hugs his dad, Larry the Axe Hennig. Disco argues with Larry, and Kurt jumps in when the match starts. Kurt's attacking Disco on the outside. Kurt throws Disco in the ring. Kurt runs the rope and hits a drop kick on Disco. Kurt throws Disco back outside. Kurt's choking the hell out of Disco. Larry holds Disco up, and Kurt punches him. Kurt stays chopping Disco. Kurt holds Disco and Larry punches Disco. Tony says refs allows this because it's no in-ring interference. This makes 0 sense, Logan. 0 sense. Everything else is a fucking gimmick match. Just say this is a no DQ match. Mm-hmm. Makes no sense. Mm-hmm. And then they're back in the ring, and Disco gets a foot to the face and hits the net breaker, then a diving forearm. Hennig goes for the perfect plex, but Disco holds the rope. And then out comes some Guido-looking guy as Curtis slapping Disco around. Disco sees the guy walking down the ring, goes out of the ring, and Disco walks away with the guy. Disco is counted out. So dumb. So, like, so far tonight, we've had the Misfits hold Old Boy's leg, a DQ and a strap match, and now a count out, Logan. Yep. Can no one look at the lights? What the fuck?
Apparently
Any thoughts on that match?
Because I kind of joked with you before. I didn't completely remember the finish of every match, but I was like, was there a clean finish throughout the whole night? But there ends up being a couple for sure. But yeah, just absurd. Yeah, I love the Axe actually getting involved and holding Disco for the punch for Kurt and then delivering one himself. I thought that was pretty good. We probably don't want to name who this is, but this is Tony Mamaluke, correct? That Brink comes out and brings him to the back. Disco, is that correct? Is that who that is? Maybe, maybe not. Okay.
Maybe.
Definitely a lower.
Maybe not.
He's definitely a random lower level mobster for sure. He's definitely not the final boss. I would say he definitely looks like he's like an underling for the big boss of the mob. Whoever he's supposed to be. He's definitely supposed to be somebody, but I can't remember if that's who it is. But go ahead.
In the Logan, in these matches, we've had people run down in all these fucking matches. Like, not everything has to be a shit show, you know? Like, It's going to get worse before it gets better tonight, guys.
I was saying, we're pretty deep into the show, and we still have like 6 or 7 matches left, if that tells you anything.
5 tournament matches left, guys.
Yep.
7 matches total.
But yeah, just another dumb finish. I would have rather the lower level mobster guy kind of distracted him and Hennig gotten the roll up, but keeps him alive, keeps his career alive, obviously. And then back to the Lex Luger stuff. I do kind of agree with you. He's been a pretty good shit stirrer so far, and seems to be playing the game the way that he can make it most benefit him. So definitely playing his role correctly and doing well at the same time. But yeah, the match was not much to write home about, and then this match, or the finish, was even stupider to kind of go with the theme of the night.
Yeah, I just, the wheels are starting to come off, Logan. So we go back to TNA with the filthy animals. Eddie says you don't steal from the animals. Ray is shooting Eddie with a kid cam. Eddie says that when he runs rings around Saturn, Tori comes home. Conan takes the mic and issues a challenge to everyone tonight. Then we see Norman Smiley and Catcher's equipment backstage getting ready for something, which Norman Smiley's been a revelation. He's been so funny to me. Have commercial break. We come back. We see the promoter and Hall. Promoter says, "Ha! I could have been one of the boys." Hall says, "What are you doing?" The promoter laughs and says, "Ha ha! I'm getting into character." And then we randomly get a hard-way 3-way dance with Barbarian versus Ming versus Norman Smiley. Barbarian's wearing a do-rag, by the way, which is a sight to see. And Smiley, like we said, is in the catcher's uniform. Ming attacks Barbarian. So this is the implosion of the Faces of Fear, Logan. Ming attacks Barbarian. Norman goes to clothesline Ming, and it does nothing. Norman hits Ming with the trash can, and he no-sells it. Norman hits Barbarian with the city chair shot. And then Barbarian and Ming beat the hell out of Norman with the trash can. And then there's a mop that comes in, and Ming and Barbarian trade shots with the mop. It's just shots with the weapon in this match. Ming hits an atomic drop on Norman. Barbarian then hits an atomic drop on Norman. Ming actually hits a drop kick, which was a sight to see. I don't think I ever see Ming leave his feet like that. And then Norman rolls out of the ring and chases after Jimmy Hart, but Barbarian hits him. And then Barbarian and Ming start chopping the hell out of Norman. And he kind of like falls down. And the ref is calling for the stretcher as Norman's hurt. So it's down to just Ming and Barbarian. And Norman's pointing to his chest, and then he gets off the gurney because he looks up and he saw that Ming and Barbarian were both down. So Norman runs in and pins Barbarian. This was just a nothing match. I don't like in these WCW hardcore matches, they wheel the trash things down. They don't find them under the ring. I don't know. I just think both are dumb. What says you, Logan?
Yeah, just a ridiculous match to kind of just randomly throw out there. Poor Norman gets the fucking shit beat out of him by these 2 crazy Tongan Samoans, crazy men. It seemed like Norman was kind of faking a heart attack on the stretcher until he noticed that, like you said, that Barbarian and Ming had both kind of knocked each other out, and then runs back and gets the win. But yeah, just an absurd match to throw out there. In the middle of a show that has world title tournament matches and all that other stuff, but just an insane match to throw out there, especially since Smiley and Ming are still in the tournament, I'm pretty sure. So, pretty insane to throw this match.
They both are. It makes no sense.
Yep. But yeah, the Nash segment during this little series of segments this one was pretty good, pretty funny. Says he's getting in character, and I love that they're in like a restroom when that's going on. So it makes it even funnier. But yeah, Conan also throws out the open challenge to any tag team on the roster to go for the tag title. So we'll see that works out for them later. If we'll have another tag title change.
I mean, we haven't had a tag title change in almost a week, Logan. I think we're due.
Yeah, I know. We're due.
So after that match, we go backstage to Jeff saying, Lex, it's time for a public apology. We have a commercial break. And then in this next segment, we'll have a new and reoccurring character, at least for, I think till January, Logan. We see Jim Duggan talking to the powers that be. Jim is doing a pitch to save his job. We see Creative Controls laughing. Jim says he has the fan support. Jim says he wants an opportunity. A voice says, I don't care, basically, and says, I don't care if you have 4 kidneys, because Jim mentioned how he had kidney cancer. And then he says, it's all about ratings, and says, next. Death of WCW book called this perfectly. It's basically, the powers that be, it's basically Inspector Gadget's bad guy. That's what you see, with just like, from his perspective, with people looking at him. So that's all it is. So then we go to Scott Hall saying to the promoter, you never screwed anyone. Promoter says, if Sid gets screwed, it's because Sid screwed Sid. And then, get it? And then we see Luger telling Ming he took a hell of a bump. And Luger brings up Jarrett again and says Ming has to deal with Jarrett. And then Jarrett comes out and Jeff says, hey, Luger, and says, I got your total package right here. Of course, points to his dick because everyone has to do that apparently. Jarrett says it's time to let Luger come out and publicly apologize like a man. Says he didn't lay a finger on Liz. Says it's not the WWF and we do not abuse women, which is hilarious because they have had Madusa. They're going to have Madusa in 2 first-round matches, Logan. Luger's music hits, and out comes Luger and Liz. Tony says Luger has something up his sleeve, as we've seen in the last few segments. Luger says he doesn't know that Jarrett hit Liz with the guitar, but he says, I'm sorry, and says, you know what? It could have been someone else. Jarrett says, you're damn right. Says he is the chosen one. He has stroke, and he doesn't get physical with women anymore, which actually made me laugh. He's like, I don't get physical with women anymore. Luger says he's on his side and says he heard a rumor that Meng did it. Jarrett says that giant ape and says it took a day to take it to beat Madusa, and then he calls Madusa 50. Madusa just catching strays right here in this segment, Logan. Seems like it was written by you.
Maybe.
So Meng then runs in, and Jarrett runs away. And when Jarrett's running away, he says, back up, slap nuts. As this is going on, Jarrett escapes. Luger walks to the ring, and Liz says, finally a man that comes to the aid of a woman, talking about Ming. Then Liz maces Ming, and Luger takes a tire iron out and starts beating on Ming. Luger took out Ming as whenever they face each other in round 2, Luger will face Ming. So what'd you think of all that? Of like, it looked like Luger's ruse fell through, but it really didn't because he. So then he had to take him out himself, Logan. But Luger still being kind of hilarious.
Yeah, being the smartest man in the tournament for sure. He has a bye in the next round based on DDP and Flair.
Because DDP and Flair.
Yeah, took each other out. So he has a bye, but I think Sting and Ming are the matchup that he would face in the following round. So he takes out Ming here, and he'll see what he can do with Sting later in a segment that we'll talk about. But yeah, he baits in Ming here, obviously as baiting Jarrett to call Ming out, so Ming will attack and take out Jarrett as well. So he won't have to deal with him later in the tournament either. But yeah, then they mace him and beat him, and Luger beats the shit out of him with the tire iron, crowbar, whatever it's supposed to be. So smart working by the total package. So you can't blame him there. And the hacksaw stuff, like, just seems kind of mean spirited. I don't know. Obviously, like you said, kind of becomes a thing, but seems kind of mean spirited. Kind of just shit on him after he basically poured his heart out to kind of just get a shot in the company. So didn't come off super well for me, but obviously I know that it's just to get a legend out there and a name that people may know. So I get it, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't even know Hacksaw was still here, Logan. Like, Jesus.
I mean, I knew he was based on something that I know, but yeah.
I knew he was with like Team Canada in 2000, but I thought he left and came back. So after all that, we go backstage and we see Eddie and the Filthy Animals getting ready. Eddie says he has this. We then see the Revolution. And then we see Hall and Promoter knocking on Sid's door, but no one answers. We go to commercial break, and we see Luger talking to Sting about going after the tag titles. Luger says this is what we've always wanted, despite the fact they held them in 1996, Logan. Like, I understand Russo wasn't here, but also, like, what a big thing with WCW and NWA fans was history. And they know this stuff. They know the Steiner brothers were tag champs. They know that Luger and Sting have always tag teamed up. They had that great match of Super Brawl 1. They were tag team champs for like most of 1996 until the Outsiders came. And it's just like, what are we doing? And Sting, who doesn't have face paint on, he just says if it's not the world title, he doesn't care. Luger keeps saying we need to take the tag titles. Luger says Sting can get the world and Luger will get the U.S. Sting finally agrees. Logan. Then we have the key on the pole match. Guys, 6 episodes in, we finally get our first pole match. I'm just as shocked as you are that it took this long, but you can start to see how Russo's hands are all over it because we have yet another gimmick match. And this whoever gets the key will get to decide Tori Wilson's future, if she's going to be free to the filthy animals or scaled by Perry Saturn. So match starts off. Tony says Luger is trying to manipulate Sting. Perry actually drives the forklift with Tori in the cage to the ring. Ray tries to get the key, but is actually stopped. Perry won't get in the ring. Heelan does, and Eddie jumps him. Eddie throws Perry out of the ring and throws him into the guardrail. Eddie goes for the key, and Perry grabs him. Perry hits a clothesline on Eddie. Perry hits a nice suplex on Eddie. Eddie hits a tornado DDT from the middle rope, which I thought was very nice. Eddie then climbs the pole, and Shane Douglas stops Eddie. Shane throws Eddie off the top rope, and he lands on Kidman, which was pretty sick because I didn't even see Kidman catch him, Logan. It was pretty nice. Perry hits a superplex from the side of the ring where the pole is. Perry hits a pile driver on Eddie. During this time, Perry could have climbed the pole but doesn't because Perry's a fucking moron. Perry hits a headbutt on Eddie. Perry throws Eddie out of the ring and throws Eddie into the shark cage. Perry climbs the turnbuckle but hops down. 2 times he could have got the ring but didn't. And then Perry goes to the outside. Eddie rams Perry into the shark cage. Tori starts choking Perry with like a rope that she had on her. Keep in mind, guys, during all this, the Filthy Animals and the Revolution are outside the ring, and they're not touching. They could have, when she's choking Perry, they could have ran in and stopped all this. But they don't. And this is when it gets really embarrassing. It's like they didn't check the height for the key on the pole. Logan, if I was a wrestler, this would be my biggest fear in the Money in the Bank, would I not be able to take off that chain thing that they have. Eddie was probably... This probably felt like 10 minutes to him. It was really 10 seconds. Eddie goes up and he can't quite reach the key with him standing on the top rope. The Filthy Animals try to help him, and he's like, no, I got it. Eddie then jumps off the turnbuckle and has to grab the key like that. And this just makes everyone look fucking stupid. But Tori is free. Something I thought was going to last one episode actually lasted a week. Just so dumb. What did you think of the match? Like, it had some good points there. Like, Perry and Eddie actually have good chemistry. Like, they were stiff with each other and hitting nice moves, but like Perry looks like the biggest dumbass ever. Like, Sean likes to shit on Sting for being the dumbest babyface ever, but Perry Saturn is in the running for being the biggest moron, as we'll see later in the show as well, because he's not done, guys.
Yeah, he's pretty stupid in this match, has, like you said, multiple chances to win this and just goes to attack Eddie more. I thought it was a solid match. Little too much shenanigans throughout. I felt like a little bit too much involvement from the outside guys, despite them not fighting each other. Another stupid step to be, and that made it, it only had a height that it could reach. Like Guerrero couldn't climb the pole either. They claimed that the Revolution had like greased it, so they, it was slippery, so he couldn't climb it very well. But yeah, luckily he has some good athleticism and could jump up and grab the key, because that could have ended really badly with him not being able to get it, obviously. But he does show a good bit of athleticism there and gets it to win the match. And they get Tori back. So, like you said, could have been a little bit longer of a storyline, but last a week. But good to see her back with the Filthy Animals. I believe she had a shirt on and she took it off, and that's what she was choking Saturn with. So, because I'm pretty sure by the end,
I was like, where the fuck did she get this rope?
Because I'm pretty sure by the end of this, she's just in a bra and like whatever pants she was wearing. I think she had a black shirt on before that and was choking him with that. So. But yeah, solid match, but couldn't be much more because of the stip and kind of the amount of shenanigans that was going on.
Yeah, it's just so stupid when the wrestlers are put in a position to make themselves look dumb. Like, Perry looks like the biggest moron ever. Anyway, we go backstage and we see Sid, the promoter, and Scott talking. Promoter says we were all on the same page. Promoter says just trust me. Sid screams, 2 years ago I trusted you and my career went into the shitter. Damn, Sid. All right. So that was 97.
That's how you really feel.
Yeah, he didn't really do anything after Mania because he got in that car accident. So not his fault.
He was hurt a lot after that, for sure.
Yeah. So we have a commercial break. We're back on commercial. They go back to showing Sting being stripped of the title and setting up the world title tournament. Then we go to Tenay, who's interviewing Luger. And Luger says, you'll be facing Sting or Ming next. Luger says you are out of line. That's just his response and walks off. Like, he just hits him with the outer line. So, so then we have the WCW tag title match, and it's Kidman and Konnan versus Sting and Luger. Tony says he smells a rat. Bobby says, you're saying Liz is a rat? And he's like, no, I mean Luger. Which you can tell they sort of don't like each other with the way they're acting. Konnan gets on the mic, but Sting's music cuts him off. Sting comes out. Tony is saying Luger is up to something. Luger's taking off his attire, like, because he has, like, as I said before, like the swishy stuff that has like the buttons you can rip off. And while he's doing that, the Filthy Animals attack Sting. Sting takes both out. So Luger and Kidman start off. Kidman uses speed to work on Luger. Luger's like facial expressions in this is like where he's like making fun of Kidman having no muscles was hilarious. So Kidman uses speed to work on Luger. Luger jumps over Kidman and lands on his knee and acts like he's selling that he blew out his knee. So Sting and Konnan are in now, and Sting's working on Konnan, hits a stinger splash on Kidman and Konnan. Like, gee, I love Sting, but Jesus, they're making the Filthy Animals look like jokes when Sting's taking him out the whole time by himself. Ray runs in and Sting takes him down. Then Eddie runs in. The Filthy Animals beat down Sting. Filthy Animals beat down Sting with a bat, and Konnan takes his bat. During this time, Luger is outside the ring selling his knee. Luger checks on Sting, and Sting pushes Luger down because he's mad, asking where he was at. And Luger's like, my knee's hurt. So, Logan, we have a WCW World Tag Title match that went like a minute and a half. It's more just a backdrop for Sting and Luger. Anything you'd like to add besides Luger being hilarious?
Yeah, I love that Total Package was stripping while Sting was getting his ass beat by this Filthy Animals to start. And then he sells the injury like death in the middle of the match, so all the animals can kind of jump on Sting. But yeah, Sting does kind of whoop all their asses for a good bit, so he does kind of make them look like fools, make Sting look like a unstoppable force. I do love the Total Package interview beforehand where Tenay, again being accusatory, ask what are you trying to pull, Package, in this tournament with, like, doing the thing with Ming earlier, and obviously he's up to some shenanigans with Sting here. But yeah, just Total Package has a foolproof plan, and it's to get everybody in his way taken out of the tournament before he has to face them. So yeah, just good acting and good playing of this character by Luger so far. But yeah, Filthy Animals have been presented pretty well so far, but they do look kind of foolish, getting beaten kind of single-handedly almost by Sting here.
Yeah, it's like, WCW used to say, like, there was a big difference between the main event and upper mid card, and like, but that was like when Bischoff was booking, not Vince Russo, but you really saw it here. Like, it should have been like Eddie and Ray come down together and beat him up, not one at a time, but yeah, whatever. And I say that as a big Sting fan, like, I'm having issues with it when, it's my boy doing it. All right, so guys, we have 30 minutes left in this Nitro. I just want y'all to know, 30 minutes is left in the Nitro. And this is what happens. So we go backstage. Hall tells Sid, just touch me and I'll go down. Hall says he has nothing left to prove in the business. Sid asks the promoter what he'll be doing. Nash says, thinking of skits and burning every bridge in the business, so he's stuck here, which that was a line that popped me to no end, Logan. So we go to commercial break. Back in commercial, we get a hype video for Mayhem, which is the November pay-per-view. Gone is World War III. So it's called Mayhem, and it's in Toronto. And Sting is backstage throwing shit, looking for the Filthy Animals. So we have Booker T versus Jeff Jarrett in a round one match. So Booker T's coming down. Jarrett jumps him as he's walking down the ramp. Jarrett's beating Booker's ass, just throwing him from guardrail to guardrail. Jarrett goes to use his guitar, but the ref stops him. Keep in mind the match hasn't started yet. Booker's in control now and throwing Jarrett around outside the ring. They get in the ring, and Jarrett starts whooping ass until Booker hits a scissor kick. Booker pins Jarrett, goes to pin Jarrett, and the ref counted the fall, but the match hasn't started yet, so I guess it has, Logan. Back outside, Jeff Irish whip Booker into the rail. Creative Control is outside watching. Jeff hits a nice cross body off the top rope, but Booker T reverses it for a 2 count. Jarrett gets a sleeper hold on Booker. Booker reverses the sleeper hold and then hits the bookend, but they don't name it that. It's basically the rock bottom. Booker T then hits an axe kick. Then he goes for the Harlem side kick. Creative Control distract Booker T, and they throw a guitar in the ring. Jeff hits Booker T with the guitar, and despite the trash from the guitar wreckage on the ground, the ref still counts 3. Jeff Jarrett has advanced to round 2, and Booker T is out. Logan, this was a pretty good match until fuckery got in the way.
Yeah, this is kind of like the key on pole match earlier. Too much shenanigans to be past a certain point, but I did like the brawl in the aisleway to kind of start things out. Obviously, the match hadn't started at that point, but they're brawling pretty good throughout the arena beforehand. Or throughout the aisleway and the ringside beforehand. So I like that part of it. The match was good once it got in the ring, but again, shenanigans with Creative Control and the guitar happened towards the end. So probably the best match of the night, if I'm being honest with you, even for what we've got ahead. But, still not past a certain point, I would say. But definitely a solid match.
Yeah, it really was. And, we see the chemistry between these two that we'll see next summer as well. So we take a commercial break. And we come back and we see Tenay is interviewing Goldberg on the set of Slam. That's what they say, set of Slam, which becomes Ready to Rumble, as we're discussed, as Tony calls it, Ready to Rumble, literally 5 minutes later. Tenay asks how he is, and Goldberg says he's pissed off now, and he's pissed off what happened last Monday. He says he's going to unleash hell on the Outsiders and Sid. Goldberg says next time he sees Sid, he will make the Halloween Havoc match look like a PTA meeting. He says no doctor alive will be able to sew Sid up. Tenay asks Goldberg how he feels mentally and physically. Goldberg says there's no suit or wrestler who got close to him after Monday. Goldberg says the Outsiders and Sid made a mistake and left him breathing. Tenay asks if Goldberg alone can take out all 3 of them. Goldberg says he doesn't care how many there is. Goldberg is going to get all 3 out of the business. So, as I said, that interview was super quick. Like Scott Steiner's interview was there, but it was nice ferociousness from Goldberg in that interview. Like, I want to see him come and whoop the Outsiders and Sid's ass, and maybe we have the 2, knights of WCW being Bret Hart and Goldberg against this trio of hellions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a solid interview. Exposed that, showed that. Goldberg was definitely out for vengeance. He wants to get these 3 guys. And then, the Sid match was pretty good at Halloween Havoc, so that would be a match I would be interested in seeing again. And then, if he faces some combination of the Outsiders, I think they have pretty good chemistry as well. So, but we'll see kind of where he comes back and who he kind of comes back against and who he'll face kind of going into Mayhem. But definitely looking forward to seeing him wreck shop on somebody.
And Logan, they're acting like Goldberg's like a main part in this movie. You've seen this movie. I've seen this movie like 100 times. He has a small role. He's in like 3 scenes total.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what the fuck is he needed for so long for? So anyway, we go backstage again. Slam! So we see the Nitro girls beefing again as they're leaving. The promoter breaks it up. He says he loves a good cat fight, but let's save it for pay-per-view, and then he laughs. And then we see Tenay with Evan Courageous. Tony Schiavone was right when he called him no talent Evan Courageous. Tenay says tonight is Evan's big night. Evan says he's excited, but he never fought a woman before. Evan's acting like he's 14-year-old and about to see his first boob. He says Madusa is hot, but after this, hopefully they can be friends. comes off as like the biggest pussy I've ever seen, Logan. We go commercial break, and then we have Tenay with Madusa. Tenay says powers may be have given her another chance. She said the powers that me must be getting a kick of watching her compete against men, so they should never doubt her. We go to this match, Madusa versus Evan Courageous in the first round match. Evan gets a jobber entrance, which is like great. He doesn't even get like a ring entrance. He's wearing a backwards hat. Madusa grabs Evan's ass to start the match and then takes his hat, like flips his hat off. She's using her woman's wilds, as Tony says. She rubs his chest. She basically, like, Madusa puts Evan in a headlock and Evan's head's right in her boobs. And then, like, he tries to, like, get out of the headlock and he rubs Madusa and she's, like, it's like the worst lap dance ever. And it's just so fucking bad. And then Madusa lays down and tries to let Evan pin her, but he picks her up and Irish whips her. When that, Madusa jumps on Evan and, like, he holds her and, like, they fall down together, and then she pins him and kisses him while they're pinning. This is the dumbest fucking shit ever. Madusa's in round two. Like, as we talked about on 7 Months of Danger, you could not stand Madusa. I didn't really have a problem with her. It's just so fucking bad here. Like, like I told you before the pod, I was like, this feels like written for a 14-year-old. And you're like, a 14-year-old wouldn't even think this is dumb. This is the dumbest shit ever. Like, it's like Russo has never touched a fucking boob or something. Like, it's just so bad. What did you think of all that?
Yeah, the whole match was them just kind of getting caught in suggestive poses throughout. So, and obviously Madusa ends up on top for the pin. Well, like I said, the most fake, worst kiss I think I've ever seen. She's so bad of an actress, she can't even get her hair in the way to prove that they're not even kissing at the same time. So, chalk up another terrible Madusa segment there, but just a business exposing at the very, very height of everything. But yeah, just a segment in a match that didn't need to exist. Just awful stuff.
It's so bad. And then as we talked about the production people, we see Dean Malenko talking Revolution in the back. No idea what was said because we couldn't hear what was said, Logan. Then we see Benoit walking. Then we see David Flair showing up to the building with his crowbar. We have a commercial break. And last week we had the last man standing match, which was usually a feud ender. This week we have another feud ender, Logan, which is Chris Benoit versus Dean Malenko in a cage match for first round of the tourney. Dean jumps Chris as soon as he gets in the ring. Dean's working over Chris. Chris comes off the ropes and kicks Dean. Chris picks up Dean for a power bomb and like puts his face back into the cage, which I thought was pretty sick, and then power bombs him. Chris then drop kicks Dean into the cage. Benoit's beating down Dean. He tries to beg off. Benoit misses a drop kick. Dean catapults Chris into the cage. Dean throws Benoit in the cage twice. They really suck for not being able to bleed, I guess, on TV, even though like Sid bled buckets at Halloween Havoc. But nice to have some blood in this match. Chris then reverses out and hits a nice tombstone on Dean. Dean goes up to the top of the Chris goes to the top of the cage, and Malenko gets to the electric chair and drops Benoit. Saturn then runs down, and guys, I said Saturn is not done fucking up. He fucks up again. He scales the cage. He throws a chain to Malenko, but Benoit gets it and hits Dean. Then Chris gets on top of the cage and hits a diving headbutt. He then pins Dean, and it's over. Perryland jumps off the top of the cage onto Benoit and beats down Chris. Shane hits Chris with his cast. The Revolution is in now. The Revolution is beating down Chris. They handcuff Benoit to the cage by all limbs to the cage and start beating him down. Out comes Ray and the rest of the Filthy Animals. When the Filthy Animals come in, Revolution actually starts able to get the advantage for a little bit. So they come in one at a time into the cage. But then Filthy Animals get on offense and are beating down Revolution. David Flair runs down and beats down the Filthy Animals with a crowbar. I'm actually really enjoying this, Logan. This is good shit. David looks like he's unsure. He wants to unlock Benoit from the cage, but he does. And Conan's backing up, having able to get out of harm's way. He's backing up the entrance wrap. And as he does, Sting takes out Conan, who Conan had his back from earlier, as I mentioned. And that's how we fade to commercial right here. Logan, I will say the steel cage match was rushed like everything else because I said we had 30 minutes left in the show, but I really liked the ending of the cage, like after the match was finished, with how it brought all these storylines together. As much as I shit on Russo, he does a good job of like intertwining everything so not everyone is on their own island.
Yeah, exactly. I thought the match was a fun sprint for a while it lasted. Absolutely insane finish with the diving headbutt from the top of the cage. Just a, obviously an insane man that did insane things
CTE,
to his
CTE.
to his brain. This included, of course. But yeah, the match was fun for a while it lasted, but obviously didn't get a ton of time. Another feud ender match that is obviously just the beginnings and buildings of a further feud that they'll probably have in the future. But yeah, the beatdowns afterwards, the animals getting involved, David Flair coming out, Sting even coming out was all good to kind of pay off that story for the night. And then, just a really, really good brawl throughout. Obviously, David Flair kind of frees Benoit because he got handcuffed and beaten up pretty good to the cage. So, yeah, really, really fun match for the most part, and a fun brawl to follow.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Like, as much as shit on Russo, I got to point out his good parts, and this was I thought was very good. So we come back from commercial break, and we actually see that Asia ripped the chain off the cage, which was totally missed the first time, Logan. And we see that David is leaving, and a car runs David over, like in slow motion. And then we see that it was Kimberly who ran over David. David takes the crowbar and pokes at David's body, and she then leaves. And then we see that the promoter is down. Scott is yelling for help. And then we have the main event. Sid versus Scott in the last first round match. And we see that Sid's wearing the U.S. title that he took from Bret earlier. He is not the champ. Tony says that Hall said that Bret Hart attacked Nash, which he did not say that. He just said he was yelling for help. Scott Hall finally comes out. We have 6 minutes left, guys. So Sid pokes Hall when he goes for the pin. Scott Lynn tries to inside cradle Sid, which was kind of impressive. They actually start the match, but it's just like Sid beating the shit out of it. Scott, what?
Just there's only 6 minutes left, guys. Just ridiculous.
I mean, it is. Like I was like checking. I was like, we only have 6 minutes left. Jesus. But like all that stuff literally happened with 30 minutes left, Logan. Like think about what I went through.
I know.
And Sid has no offense. It's just chokes and kicks. He does hit a nice backbreaker on Scott, and Sid does the Hulk Hogan hand cup, and the crowd booing him. Sid's still kicking Scott. We get loud Goldberg chants. Tony says Goldberg is on the set of Ready to Rumble. Not
Slam.
Thank you. Sorry. So no, Sid finally gets. So Sid finally gets some more offense with a quick rake of the eyes. Sid with some punches. Sid gets the Cobra clutch on Scott, and then Sid gouges Scott's eyes. Scott gets some punches on Sid. Sid went for a choke slam, but Hall, of course, grabs the ref and knocks him down. Sid choke slams Hall. Sid goes for the power bomb, but he was a little early with that power bomb because it takes Bret a little to come out with the crutches. And he swings the bat like since it's 1999, like he's Sammy Sosa, Logan, at Wrigley Field with that crutch because the crutch just explodes when he hits Sid. And like Hall like runs over to a corner and Hart goes to hit Hall with the crutch, but he misses. That crutch also explodes. So while Hart's hobbling away, Hall runs back in and pins Sid. Hall also then steals the U.S. title, and Hall ends. Hall's walking up the ramp and he tells Bret to suck it and flips him off. And that's how we end this episode of Nitro, Logan. What did you think of that main event match? I did laugh at them trying to do the finger poke of doom, and Scott's like, I got nothing to prove. And then he tries to beat him, and he actually does end up pinning him. So we got two big names out in the first round with Sid and Goldberg.
Yeah, insane. I'll just go back to the car running over David Flair. Obviously, just complete slow motion. It looked like something out of one of those like training videos you would watch at like work before you started the job or whatever. So, like, with like terrible actors like trying to show like, hey, don't walk out in front of the forklift while you're in the warehouse or something like that. And obviously it had like a weird edit kind of cutaway thing, so you could tell how spliced together and terrible it was. But yeah, the main event, it was fine. Obviously, they tried to redo the finger poke of doom, and then he double crossed him a little bit. But yeah, the crutch shots are absolutely devastating. Just break over, Sid's back and destroy him. But yeah, Hall does get the win, gets to advance, sneaks the pin in, even though Brett's kind of trying to go after him as well. And then he actually escapes with the U.S. title. So not only did Sid steal the U.S. title from Brett, now Hall has it in his possession. But I'm sure that'll come into play somewhere in the near future. But yes, not the worst way to end the show. Gets Brett involved and gets him to get a pretty good weapon shot in, and obviously show that he's still going to be involved with Sid and the outsiders going forward. But definitely not the best match in ring, but was good enough, I guess.
Yeah, like we really saw Sid's like limitations. And Hall's not the Hall of a couple years ago, sadly. So, but we're getting some nice storytelling here. Hart did say he was going to take down Sid, Hall, and Nash, and he took out 2 of the 3 tonight, apparently. So, there we go. So, before we close up here, Logan, let's go over some stats. I got the most absurd. I got Madusa and the promoter. Anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, those were the 2 that I thought of. I wrote down, just Nash's makeup job as a whole, just him as the promoter. But I throughout the show, I kind of thought the Madusa, that whole match was just absolutely the worst. So I would be good with either of those, honestly.
Yeah, my Madusa hate is starting to infringe on my Buff hate, Logan, and I don't really know what to do because Buff's won this award the last couple of times, so it's really concerning. So I got what was good. I got the cage match and the aftermath of the cage match.
Jarrett and Booker for the good portion, most portion of it, except the end, obviously. But I thought their chemistry showed pretty well in their first match here.
Yeah, that is 100% true. I'll add that. I got what was bad. I got gimmick matches and overbooking of matches.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to throw the Madusa thing back here too, and the Buff, just kind of the overuse of gimmick matches and how convoluted kind of the endings were because of them. So, yeah, I would go with that.
For Rising, I got Hall, Brett, Filthy Animals, and Luger.
I would put Jarrett there. I think obviously he beat Booker, and I think he was featured pretty well tonight. So him and Tenay establishing their relationship of being very accusatory and yelling at each other. So I'll give Jarrett a bone there.
And who knew that it started here, Logan, and not back in TNA?
Mm-hmm. I think it just carried over. So.
That's 100% true. Falling, I got Revolution for fucking everything up.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid pick. They seemed the most foolish throughout the night. Maybe Sid kind of falling for the outsiders games and stuff like that. So
being a big stupid dummy.
Yeah, for being a big stupid idiot.
Yes. Matches tonight. We had 11 matches, Logan. We had 3 matches in the last 30 minutes. With all that other shit. Of those 11 matches, we had 3 clean finishes and 8 non-clean finishes or non-finishes. And we have 2 new things we're gonna track here on the show. I'm gonna go back for one of them and see how many we can add. But pole matches overall, because that's what Russo's always made fun of. We have 1 pole match. We had 1 tonight. And for gimmick matches, we had 6 gimmick matches tonight. Like I said, and overall we have 6. Next episode, I'll have the updated list. And tonight, I couldn't do this myself. Logan was the one that got this for me. New record of 58 different things happening tonight, Logan. Whew, my voice has felt the brunt of that. So 58 things, new record.
Yeah, 58 or somewhere in the realm of that. But yeah, 58 is what I landed on. So I believe that beats the previous record of either 54 or 56. So it was close, but obviously 58 is our new record for things that happen. Don't think Thunder will beat it next time, but we'll see if a future Nitro could possibly do it.
Yeah, the old record was the 54 on last week's Nitro 1025. So he's just going crazy. We had 0 title changes tonight. But we're still stuck at 9 title changes overall. Feels weird. We went 2 shows without a title change, Logan. I'm just as shocked as you are. Before we get out of here, guys, I got one question to ask, Logan. Are we smarter than Russo's WCW this episode?
Yes. The overabundance of gimmick matches, the terrible Vince attempt at making fun of Vince was not good at all. So definitely smarter than Vince Russo on this one for sure. What do you say?
That is, I 100% agree, Logan. Yeah, it was not as bad as last week, though. Last Monday, but we'll have to see what happens. I will say, you give it off to Russo. This man loves to write a bunch of storylines. If they come to completion, we shall see. We sort of saw the Sid Halloween Havoc thing. He said he was going to have it tonight. We never saw it, so I don't know what the hell's going on. So, that closes out another episode of Are You Smarter Than Vince Russo's WCW? I'm Scott Shiflett. He's Logan Crossland. Don't forget to listen to everything here on Backbone Wrestling Network. Logan does the cross up. That's literally how I check my email on Mondays while I'm doing work. Drops it every Monday. It's his recap of everything that happened in wrestling the week before. We got New Gen on a Mission. We got Ruthlessly Aggressive Pod, which is slowly killing Logan and Jake more than TNA Never Dies in this pod. We got The Shit Take with Keithy Langston and Sean Kidd. We got YouTube Roulette every month. You want it, we got it, pretty much. So come and listen, hang out with us. We're enjoying ourselves, if you can't tell. Logan also has Talking Docs on the Jenny position one Wednesday a month on the No-So feed. Be sure to listen to that. Listen to everything on the No-So feed. Really enjoying it. But enjoy it for Jenny Wednesdays because she's killing on that. We also have Linking Up Lucha every other Thursday here. We're in season 2 after Mil Muertes lost his title to Phoenix. And then Phoenix lost the title to
Matanza.
Matanza, thank you. I wanted to call him Masantis, but I knew that was wrong. So, make sure to check everything out here. Thank you all for listening and have a good afternoon, good day, or good night.
Peace.
Someday, when my life has passed me by,